Hello, and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Over the last few days, one of the biggest shocks was the demise of Kirk, the conservative activist who was shot during a public event at Utah Valley University. The tragedy has set off widespread condemnation from both sides of the aisle and intensified concern about political violence and the rhetoric in public discourse. Utah's governor and other leaders are calling for unity and political civility, even as finger pointing has already started. Another major development is that the head of this administration has ordered deployment of the National Guard in Memphis to address crime, marking yet another instance of federal force being used in cities led by Democrats. This move is controversial not only because crime rates have been falling in many of these places, but also because of debates over local versus federal control, civil liberties, and how crime is being framed as justification for expanding federal and military involvement. Economically, consumer sentiment continues to slip. The University of Michigan's latest survey shows Americans are increasingly pessimistic, concerned about inflation, the job situation, and how tariff policies will hit their wallets. Many expect prices to keep rising, and there's fear that trade tensions, especially around tariffs, will worsen everyday costs. On the political norms front, there are a few signs of things cooling off. The public outrage over Kirk's death has revived conversations about political violence and whether heated rhetoric from public figures contributes to it. There's also been concern about federal overreach, whether in policy, law enforcement deployments, or decisions like controlling Washington, D.C.'s police force. Meanwhile, despite pushback from the head of this administration and some Republicans, there has been a growing call for transparency around Jeffrey Epstein's history. The Senate recently defeated a motion by Senate Democrats led by Chuck Schumer to force the public release of additional case files. At the same time, the House Oversight Committee released hundreds of pages from Epstein's estate, including what's being called the birthday book from his 50th, which contained personal notes and messages from high-profile figures. The head of this administration has continued to dismiss these revelations as a hoax, even as more documentation is emerging. In foreign policy and governmental operations, the U.S. continues strong pressure on immigration, trade, and tariff along the military operations such as the naval deployment in the Caribbean targeting alleged drug traffickers. These moves bring both criticism on legality and humanitarian concerns and political support depending on one's worldview at the same time. A large-scale federal workforce cuts are underway, raising concerns about the capacity of public services, the loss of expertise, and whether this is part of a broader effort to reshape the federal government's role. Today's sources come from Charlie Kirk shot at Utah Valley University, The Guardian. Trump says U.S. to deploy National Guard in Memphis, Reuters. U.S. consumer sentiment slips again in September, survey says, Reuters. Utah shooting revives concern over political violence, AP News. Senate block releases of Epstein case files, AP News. House Oversight Committee release Epstein estate documents, Washington Post. 2025 U.S. Caribbean naval deployment, Wikipedia. 2025 United States federal mass layoffs, Wikipedia. Thank you for listening. Until the next time, bye-bye for now.